Good morning all and welcome to the opening of the 2026-2027 law year. For a bit of housekeeping, can I please ask that all phones are switched off or to silent so as to not disrupt today's ceremony? I welcome Far Northern Judge of the Supreme Court, the Honourable Justice Henry, Her Honour Justice Brash, District Court Judges, His Honour Judge Moorzone KC, His Honour Judge Trevino KC, His Honour Judge Jarrow, His Honour Judge Kayla, Her Honour Judge Cope, Her Honour Judge Sheridan, and Her Honour Judge Fanton. I welcome Magistrates Morton, Dalton, Walker, Brown, Luxton, Johnson, Lodziak, Acting Magistrates Mioli and Heggie. I also welcome Northern Coroner Williams, Peter Russo MP, Shadow Assistant Minister for Justice and State Member for Toohey, Terry James MP, Member for Mulgrave, Bree James MP, Member for Barron River, Councillor Brett Moller, Councillor Trevor Timms, Councillor Anna Middleton, Coanyama Aboriginal Shire Council Mayor Dick and CEO Peter O'May, Yarrabah Aboriginal Shire Council Mayor Sexton and CEO Michael Miller, members of the profession, registrars and court staff. I begin this morning by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land where we are meeting today, the Gimuy Walubara Yidinji people. I want to take a moment to acknowledge the Gimuy Walubara Yidinji people as the original lawmakers and caretakers of this land, and I pay respects to all of their elders. My name is Bujamala Balyuni Mumbalea Mungabai Yana, and I'm a Gungalita man from Mungabai in the Gulf of Carpentaria. I'm also a legal officer at the North Queensland Land Council, where I've been for nearly 2 years now, working each day to ensure the protection of native title holders' native title rights and interests and cultural heritage. Today's ceremony marks a special occasion, one of inclusion and acknowledgement, where the local judiciary and the profession joins with the Gimuy Walubara Yidinji people and acknowledges two ancient law systems. Today is also a time for shared reflection on the importance of the profession to our community and to also learn from the Gimuy Walubara Yidinji, who are kind enough to share their collective wisdom with us all today and every other day. Without further ado, I now invite Professor Henrietta Mari to welcome us to country.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for that. It's a pleasure to be here again after so many years of coming and participating in this ancient ceremony. The land we stand on today is the land of the Walubara Yidinji people, the land of my ancestors, through my father, my grandfather, my great-grandfather Yini, and my great-grandfather Juruju and Mandajupa. This is the land that we stand on, and I'm recognising those who had gone before me. The decision in terms of our land rights was the fact that was recognised in the Federal Court on the 1st of April 2021. Our customary law and Western law have coexisted in a somewhat unequal relationship, effectively since 1876. This year, we mark 150 years of British colonisation of the country of Gimuy and the disruption to a way of life of Yidinji people extending from the Russell River through to the Barron River. It's something that we don't talk too much about, but this year, for this opening ceremony, I think it's fitting for us to understand that 150 years ago, the British colonised this country, but we are still here celebrating 60,150 years of the existence of the Walubara Yidinji people of this land. Today we come together to pay our respect to the two very different law traditions, the ancient body of customary law of the Yidinji nations and the 1,000-year-old English common law tradition of a judge-made law to commit to walk side by side to improve relationships and justice. Coming together to honour the memory of our ancestors and to honour the memory of Yidinji warriors who have sacrificed, fought and died to preserve the integrity of our nation. I want to thank the Honourable Justice Henry for taking this historic initiative to include the Gimuy Walubara Yidinji people and the Yidinji nations to be part of this great English legal tradition, and also inclusion of the Walubara Yidinji tradition of laws, and making the opening of the law year at the Cairns Courthouse, a tradition which continued since colonisation in Australia, a tradition which now acknowledges and pays respect to the body of law and customs held by the Gimuy Walubara Yidinji people on this land. A history of legislation impacting our people reflects the complex interplay of systemic racism, evolving policies and ongoing efforts towards reconciliation. From the late 19th century through to 2026, laws and institutional framework have both perpetuated and sought to rectify the inequality, racial inequalities. However, we see laws being made today which continues to deny us our rightful place. To be able to welcome you here to this country, I think we need to understand that 150 years ago, when the colonisers came, there were a number of massacres that had happened from the Mulgrave River, the 4 Mile Camp, Skeleton Creek region, where this is documented in Tyndale's journal. When Jack Kane came through and participated in that massacre, in which he stated he didn't mind killing the bucks, but he did mind braining the kids. That's just a true reflection of what was happening at that time. But to say that my great-grandfather Yini, a great Nalan, a great warrior and a great leader of his people, ensured that his people will continue to survive. So he tried to make peace with the settlers, in which he entered into an agreement, a treaty that had been discussed at that time and written, a treaty which was to ensure the safety of the Yidinji people, to make sure that there was no more fighting and killing, as part of the colonisers also entered into that agreement that there would be no more killing in this space. Despite what had happened there, many of our people were then removed to the Yoruba mission not far from here, in which they were institutionalised in dormitories and institutionalised in dormitory system. But we are still here to tell the story of our ancestors. We are still here to continue the songline and the stories and dances in which what we do every day where we can, and where we continue to celebrate who we are as Yidinji people of this land. And it is why now it is a great pleasure to welcome you all here for us to celebrate together the two laws that coexist and continue to recognise the Yidinji people of this land. Ngayu Bilangaran Yundu, Gimuy Walubara Yidinji. Sorry, I am stuck with this because it is so fitting that we do welcome you here. Bilangaran Yundu, Gimuy Walubara Yidinji Jabu. And thank you for all being here this morning to celebrate with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor, for that beautiful and warm welcome. I now invite Karawai Teresa Jua, Jamablum Hendrik Formal, and Murron Carl Formal to conduct the smoking ceremony and explain its significance, and to also perform the kawal and call out.
Koranga Chikoran Panga, you Carawai Yidinji Walubara Nalan. Wagaja, Bure, Google, Google, Google. Wagaja, Bure, Google, Google, Google. Wagaja, Bure, Google, Google, Google. Bore bunjol me, Bore bunjol me, Bore bunjol me. Bial bore wajol, Bial bore wajol, Bial bore wajol. Oh, wanjugaran mundo, wanjugaran mundo, wanjugaran mundo. Bunja, bonjo.
The smoke cleanses the area. The smoke is ceremony and holds law. L-O-R-E, that comes from the land, the landscape, and the geographical energy that provides spirit into ceremony. For the Yidinji people, ceremony is law. Land, air, and sea is law. Via this function and mechanism comes governance. The governance of the true representation of belonging and connectedness. The governance of true law, the original law of the First Nations peoples. Not just 3% of a populace or a population, but 100% of a peoples. From the doctrine of discovery to the Magna Carta, from invasion to solidifying correct and new directions in the formidable ways of freedom and a just society, to come away from being redundant, from having culture, spirituality, ceremony become a commodity. We forge our pathways into the future as First Nations people via this ceremony that has roots of an ancient civilization and spirituality that has come from the origins of North Africa, drifted then into the church systems of the invaders. And now we see a version of this via a ceremony that has usurped the spirituality and places it within the ceremony that has come from the Westminster Abbey. Here to these lands, now to be interested by First Nations people, to be interjected by First Nations people, specifically Yidinji Bammanda, Yidinji peoples, because it is now upon Yidinji homelands. We see this ceremony taking new direction, such as this country that some call Australia taking new direction via diversity that inevitably will change the country's trajectory into the near future, stepping away from a colonized version of law and community and society, thought process and psyche, providing the righteous faculty for the mind and body. We introduce the Yidinji law and freedoms as a part of this ceremony. Let us change for the greater better into the future. We welcome our brothers and sisters of diverse cultures and races to this great land. We welcome being a part of this once ye old English ceremony from the Middle Ages, now changing into the future as we see fit, being recognized as a people. We are here. The land is here. Our spirituality is here. 100% of the population, not just 3% of a populace. We are 100% of a people. I call today to respect and remind the spirits to bring strength to all that come to these lands. I call today to remind all that this is Yidinji jurisdiction. Nganja bamayeng ola janan. Kawal ngale. Gur gur gur. Oh. Nganja bamayeng ola kanakaran. Oh. Yondo babenal ngale. Oh. Grrr. Grrr. Up. Yay! Thank you, Uncle.
I now invite Mamu and Gunganji Barrister Malia Ben to the stage to give an opening of law year address.
Good morning, everyone. We are honoured today to be joined by so many esteemed guests. Justices of the Supreme Court, District Court, Federal Circuit and Family Court of Australia, the Far Northern Coroner, magistrates, commissioners, mayors of Kawanyama, Wujal and Yarrabah, members of Parliament, Deputy Director General of the Department of Justice, First Nations justice officers, members of the legal and broader community, colleagues and friends. I begin this morning by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we're meeting, the Gimuy Walubara Yidinji people, the original lawmakers and caretakers of this land. I pay my respects to their elders, some of whom honour us with their presence today, others who have passed but are never forgotten. Every year since this ceremony's inception, Yidinji elder and co-creator Henrietta A.N. has done this first address. She has this year instead given it to me, a great honour indeed. Thank you, Auntie Henrietta, for trusting me with this portion of the ceremony. I'm especially honoured as this year marks 150 years since Cairns was colonised, a time for deep reflection. As recognised by the Federal Court of Australia in April 2021, for the last 60,000 years, the lands and waters have been cared for by the Gimuy Walubara Yidinji people. Long before maps were drawn, and streets were named after Englishmen like Brinsley Sheridan, Thomas Swallow and Alexander Draper, this place was called Gimuy, the Yidinji name for the slippery blue fig tree officially recognised as the largest fig species in the world. European contact came in the 1870s and Cairns was formally proclaimed in 1876. And so began the dark history we must reckon with. But you have to know where you come from to know where you are going. The massacres, the dispossession and the opening of so-called missions, like the Anglican mission at Yarrabah, where my great-grandparents met. Yarrabah Mission was established in 1892 and Aboriginal people from many different nations were forcibly removed and sent there, including Yidinji men, women and children. My great-grandmother, Toddy Wilcox, a Malay Mamu woman, met my great-grandfather, a Gunganji man from Budabadu, at Yarrabah Mission. It was a hard life, there was never enough food, strict discipline and little self-determination. Despite that, they fell in love, married young, and in 1944 they were approved as one of the first families to be exempted from the mission. They moved to Cairns, settled on Mini Street, thrust into a new colonised world with no compass to navigate it. Their children went on to have children of their own, navigating an era where they were too black to be white and too white to be black, a sentiment that stalked my father his entire life. He succumbed to a life of alcohol and crime, spending the better parts of his adult life in prison or on parole, a cycle disproportionately experienced by Aboriginal men. My mum and I were the first in our family to attend university, she to become a nurse and I to be a lawyer, in an honourable attempt to break cycles. And so began the journey of walking in two worlds. When I was the Master of Ceremony for this first ceremony of its kind in 2021, I quoted Paul Kelly's song, From Little Things, Big Things Grow, a tribute to Gurindji elder Vincent Lanyari and the Wave Hill Walk-Off, which led 8 years later to land being symbolically handed back to the Gurindji people. That song holds this truth. Small, seemingly insignificant beginnings can lead to massive, transformative outcomes over time. This ceremony and what it symbolises has certainly grown since. Symbolism bridges the gap between literal language and deep emotional understanding. It shapes how we interpret the world, sparking reflections that words often alone fail to capture. The tree in front of us, planted during that first ceremony in 2021, the lemon myrtle, is an excellent example. It's not because the lemon myrtle represents healing, resilience and connection to country, although it does do that. It's not because it now provides shade to people as they sit and wait on some of their most nervous days, although it does do that. It's not because it provides fuel for smoking ceremonies to be conducted on days other than today, for families grieving and wanting to pay respects prior to significant court dates, like an inquest, although it does do that too. It's because when I walk into this court precinct and I see that tree, it reminds me that I was thought of, that I was included, and that me and my people matter, and that I matter. It's because here, the judiciary and the traditional owners can come together and create a ceremony that includes all and excludes none. Breaking tradition takes heart of strength. Thank you especially to Justice Henry and to Anu Henrietta for yours. As you all walk into yet another law year, I leave you with this. I understand we can only promote justice to the extent the law permits. As you go about your practice this year, though, remember that often, no matter how fearlessly or tirelessly you fought for your client, you may still land in a place where no one feels like they won. You may not have any control over that outcome. But what you do have control over is how you made your client feel seen and heard for who they really are, not for who society has made them think that they are. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you, Malia. I now invite His Honour Judge Jarrow to the stage to also give an opening of law year address.
Good morning, everyone. I'm a Bidjara Gungaloo man, Bidjara on my mother's side, Gungaloo on my father's side. Today, I stand on the country of Gimuy Walubara Yidinji, and I pay my respects to them, their elders, for their continuing connection to the lands, waterways and culture. I also extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples who are with us today, especially my resident Cairns aunties who join me, Auntie Frances Vicini, nee Armat, who originally hails from Thursday Island, and Auntie Daisy Alexander, who originally hails from Hammond Island. I also acknowledge my judicial colleagues, members of the legal profession, representatives of government and law enforcement, court staff, distinguished guests and members of the broader community. Thank you all for being here as we mark the opening of another law year. Each year, this ceremony gives us an opportunity to pause and reflect. That may seem an unusual thing to do because the administration of justice is continuous. Our responsibilities do not pause simply because another year begins. Yet occasions such as this remind us to look beyond the demands of our daily work and to consider the principles that guide it. The tradition of marking the opening of the law year has existed for centuries. However, here in Cairns, it has developed into something quite exclusive. While it retains the purpose of the traditional law year, it also reflects the history, culture, and identity of this community in a way that is uniquely tropical Queensland. Although ceremonies of this kind may differ in their form, their purpose is remarkably similar. They renew our commitment to the administration of justice and remind us that the law exists not for its own sake, but for the people it serves. What makes this ceremony in Cairns distinctive is that it asks us to recognise something more. And that is that it reminds us that this courthouse here stands upon country. Country that has been cared for by the Gimuy Walubara Yidinji peoples for countless generations. Long before the establishment of the common law courts, there were systems of law, responsibility and obligation that governed relationships between people and with country. While the systems differ, They remind us that every society, every community depends upon principles that promote order, respect and responsibility. That recognition has become an important part of this ceremony, and I think it enriches it. One of the most striking features of today's ceremony is the coming together of the law, which you've just witnessed. That's the common ground taken by the lawyers and the warriors. It is, of course, symbolic, but symbols matter. They always have. They remind us of ideas that are sometimes easy to overlook in the demands of everyday work. The laying down of the wigs, robes, shields and spears is not simply theatre. It is a reminder that justice is best pursued not through conflict, but through mutual respect. It reminds us that while we may come together from different histories and traditions, we also share a common interest in building a community in which every person is treated fairly and with respect. That aspiration is reflected in the oaths taken by judicial officers and by members of the profession. You'll hear them shortly from His Honour Magistrate Morton and Mr Joel Murger. You will notice when they speak that although the words differ, each oath or affirmation is ultimately a promise. It is a promise to discharge our responsibilities honestly, a promise to administer justice according to law, a promise to face fairness above personal interest, a promise to place principle above convenience. Those promises are not only made on the day we're admitted to practice or appointed to judicial office. In many respects, they are renewed every day that we come to work. They are renewed in the courtesy we show to one another. They are renewed in the patience we extend to those who come before our courts. They are renewed in the care with which we prepare our cases, hear submissions and deliver judgments. The public rarely sees the countless hours that lawyers, judicial officers and court staff devote to the administration of justice. However, what they do see is how they are treated, whether they are listened to, whether they are treated with respect, whether they leave believing that they have been heard. Those things matter because confidence in the administration of justice is built not only on the correctness of legal decisions, but also by the manner in which justice is administered. That responsibility belongs to all of us. The public's experience of the justice system is shaped by everyone who contributes to the work of the courts. And for those involved in the work of the courts, as you know, it is both a privilege and a responsibility. This year also marks an important milestone for this community, as Melia has indicated, as Cairns celebrates 150 years since its establishment. It is difficult to imagine the small colony or settlement that stood here in 1876. What began as small and Western ideals has become one of Queensland's most important and vibrant regional destinations. Over those 150 years, much has changed. The city has grown, its people have become more diverse, and the work of the courts has evolved alongside it. For example, since September 2023, the City of Cairns has required 3 resident district court judges. There are also currently 9 magistrates and 1 coroner. I should also mention Justice Henry, a judge of the Supreme Court and far northern judge. All 14 of those judicial officers have been entrusted to administer justice to service this environment. Yet the values that underpin the administration of justice have remained remarkably constant. They've guided those who have come before us, they guide us today, and I hope they will continue to guide those who follow us. Fairness, independence, integrity, respect, they are the values that have sustained our institutions through change, and they will continue to do so in the years ahead. As we begin another law year, I hope each of us leaves today with a sense of renewed appreciation of the responsibilities we carry and of the trust the community places in those who administer justice. Whether you're a judicial colleague, a member of the profession, a representative of government or law enforcement, or a court staff member. Ceremonies such as this today do not change the work that awaits all of us tomorrow, but they remind us why our work matters. And I hope today's ceremony has done exactly that. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Jarrow. I now invite Magistrate Morton to the stage for the recital of the oath of office.
I, Magistrate James Morton, do sincerely promise and swear I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III as lawful Sovereign of Australia and to his heirs and successors according to law. And in the office of Magistrate, I would at all times and do all things equal justice to all persons and discharge the duties and responsibilities of the office according to the law, to the best of my knowledge and ability, without fear, favour or affection. So help me God.
Thank you, Magistrate Morton. I now invite Gungandji and Yidinji man Joel Murger for the recital of the oath of admission.
I, Joel Murger, do sincerely promise and affirm that I will truly and honestly conduct myself in the practice of a lawyer of this court according to law to the best of my knowledge and ability.
Thank you, Joel. I now invite Karawai Teresa Jua and Jamablum Hendrik Formal to the stage to declare the law year open.
Long before British law was established in Cairns, the Gimuy Walubara Yidinji people were already part of a complex legal system called law. Law refers to our culture, customs, beliefs and stories learned from our story time, and governs all aspects of our daily life. It is a guide to our understanding of our world, its origins and our place within it. It connects us to our country and is represented through our visual arts, storytelling, ceremonies, totems, kinship, dances and songs. All these components play a crucial role in preserving and passing on our ancient stories, often using symbolism and representations to convey deeper meanings. Our responsibilities and roles are to maintain the natural balance of spiritual, social, cultural, economic, political, environmental, physical and knowledge systems in order for everything to work in unison for our survival and the survival of Mother Nature, and leaving behind a positive footprint for our future generations. Each member of the Gimuy Walubara Yidinji family understands their role and responsibilities, as well as what is acceptable and unacceptable behaviour within our society. The punishment for breaking law is no longer practised, as British law now hands out the punishment for our people. Our law is not static, it evolves with the changing times and the experiences of our people. It is our source of strength and resilience. Overall, it is the profound expression of our spiritual connection to the land, our ancestors, and our ongoing cycle of life. It is an integral part of our identity and worldview that embodies our rich cultural heritage and provides us with profound insights into our relationship with nature and the universe. Our law is Jilibudal Mudjam Jabbu Gayam Bendunga Mundu Bandu. Look after Mother Earth and all living and spiritual things. Banja Buluru Goranu, follow story time messages. Jilibudal Bamal, care for our people. Bignu Buluru Bumpa, protect sacred sites and territory. Dugal Bambang Nayu Goranu, learn and pass on knowledge. Binagalgo Nyundanalan, listen to your elders. Binagal Gayamban Bandu, respect all things. We now declare the
law year is open. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
In closing today, there are a number of people I would like to thank for making today the success that it has been. Thank you to all of the attendees and participants in this morning's ceremony, particularly Karawai Teresa Jua, Jamarblum Hendrik Formile, and Murren Carl Formile. I would also like to thank the organising committee and court staff who have done all the heavy lifting in terms of making today's event possible and having it run as smoothly as it has. And lastly, I would like to thank today's speakers, Professor Henrietta Mari AM, who has been a key figure by educating and embracing the court and the organising committee, contributing her ideas and having her family and mob involved in the event. Malia Ben and His Honour Judge Jarrow. Thank you for attending today.